Welcome back into Prime News. I'm Rob Finnerty, live in San Francisco. Our next guest, a very special one. For decades, Willie Brown has been a powerhouse in California politics. In Sacramento, he served as the Speaker of the Assembly for almost 15 years and went on to become a very popular mayor right here in San Francisco. And many people now know him because he was one of Kamala Harris's original mentors many years ago. Mr. Mayor, it's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon.
It's a pleasure to have you out here.
Gavin Newsom took over for you as mayor. And San Francisco, to your point, was always one of America's greatest cities. I am here. I've seen it over the last 3 days now. I used to live in California, and this is not the same city that I remember visiting a decade ago. How do you fix that?
Well, for openers, you get rid of all of the kinds of things that are interfering with fixing. That includes the bureaucracy in the city. When I served as mayor, the mayor ran the city with the powers of a chief CEO of a major business. My predecessor mayors had been similarly encased with those kinds of rules and regulations.
Yeah.
But somehow, while I served as mayor, a collection of people who now identify themselves as progressives thought I was being too dictatorial. They couldn't do anything about it while I was still breathing with the title of mayor.
Yeah.
But the day I left, they started working at absolutely driving a wedge.
So you're saying progressive policies, Mr. Mayor, have hurt the city?
That's what they call themselves.
Yeah.
I don't think they're really progressives. I'd say that they're probably more identifiable as radicals.
Okay.
Because they literally twisted the whole system in such a way, remodified it.
You dated Kamala Harris for a brief time back in the 1990s. You were her boyfriend. Now she's on the verge of the White House. The convention is happening in Chicago. To me, when I read about this story, that's the power of Willie Brown. You mentored a young Kamala Harris.
No, I did better than that.
Yeah?
She really worked to help me run my city and to help me run a part of the state of California.
Will you talk about that? What did you see in her, a young Kamala Harris?
The same talent that the world is now beginning to see. She was spectacular. She came out of the district attorney's office over in Oakland, or Alameda County.
Right.
She became a deputy district attorney in San Francisco. My friends, both whom were city attorneys here, hired her to be involved in helping them do their job as a city attorney. And in fact, much of the skill set she has acquired and exercised, particularly as it relates to children and family, came from the experiences not just in the DA's office, but in the city attorney's office, because that had to do with what really people needed, not someone who had committed a crime.
Did you ever bring her here?
I don't recall whether or not she ever showed up here.
To this restaurant.
Yeah.
So here we are today, day 2 of the DNC in Chicago. I read this about you and I was fascinated. You've been to every Democratic National Convention since, I believe, 1960. That was JFK,
Yeah.
with the exception of Bill Clinton in 1992. Why aren't you in Chicago right now?
Well, for several reasons. I'm not in a position, frankly, politically, to be very much involved anymore in the world of politics. I've passed the time on the age side for politics.
Not in my opinion,
when you should
sir.
be doing it. What?
Not in my opinion. You're 90 years old, our
Yeah.
president's 81 years
Yeah.
old, and I'll tell you what, you've got all your marbles, sir. I think you'd be just fine on stage at the DNC.
So far.
Did anyone
So
reach out
far.
to you from the campaign or the DNC and ask you maybe?
Oh, yeah, they extended the invitation,
They did.
and they should.
Yeah.
For the elders of the Democratic Party, they're important people, and they really ought to be involved at every level, because they can, in many cases, be the difference in some races.
What attracted you most to Kamala way back when you first got together in 1994?
Well,
What was it about?
believe it or not, I attended a wedding for her, one of her girlfriends, the daughter of some people that I know, and that was my first ever exposure to her.
Right.
During the course of the conversations, than the social hours of that wedding, I became intrigued with this very attractive but incredibly smart, talkative person. That's how I met her.
Without you, without your help, is Kamala where she is today?
Absolutely. She's there based on her skill set. As I indicated, she was a part of the city attorney's office in San Francisco, and she earned every bit of everything she was involved in there, and that translates into much of what she talks about on the stage. I didn't have anything to do with that. That's city attorney. She competed appropriately for that position. She did the same thing as a assistant district attorney in Alameda County.
Yeah.
I did not know her when she had that particular job. And so this is a woman who has at all times managed to be competitive enough in whatever she pursued to win it.
Because you know what the accusation is, and it might be unsavory, but it's that you were together. You were boyfriend and girlfriend, and you opened doors to her that otherwise wouldn't open up to somebody that young and maybe that inexperienced. You know, a no-name Alameda County prosecutor at the time, 2003, she's district attorney. Then she's attorney general, 2016, she's a senator, and now we're, 70 days away from maybe Kamala Harris being the next president of the United States. I don't see how you didn't give her a leg up.
Well, let me assure you that Gavin Newsom is 2 years her junior. I started his career by direct appointment, ultimately to an elective office, which is now translated into the mayorship of San Francisco, the lieutenant governorship of the state of California, and now the governorship of the state of California, and maybe, just maybe, when Kamala Harris has finished her tenure as a president, he may very well be the president that we will next be involved with. And I started that.
Yeah, and we brought up Nancy Pelosi and Dianne Feinstein.
All of those people. As a matter of fact, I was the only person, only elected official in the state of California who supported Dianne Feinstein for the mayorship, for the first job she ever got, which was a Board of Supervisors seat. She became the head of that board and ultimately transitioned into the mayorship. That was 1969.
Wow.
And so there's never any reason to assume that my inability to select talent demonstrates itself. It's just the opposite.
Let me ask you about Donald Trump. How long have you known the former president?
I suppose if I rolled backwards to the middle 90s, it would be 30 years.
And what is your feeling about the man now?
When I knew him first, it was in a social situation involving friends of his and friends of mine who celebrated their birthday in Nevada. I also subsequently had him inquire about the school board of Los Angeles when he was trying to buy the property, that hotel called Ambassador, where Robert Kennedy was assassinated.
He was killed in 1968.
He wanted to know from me what I thought about the politics there, the bureaucracy there, and what have you. And I urged him to stay away.
Did you like Donald Trump? Is it fair to say that you were fond of Donald Trump, the man, the businessman?
Yeah, I knew him. I knew him. Fond of what might be a stretch, because I didn't know him well enough to have any opinion, negative or positive, about him, except to say he seemed harmless. He was a Democrat, by the way, at that time, and he was kind of an interesting and fun person. And for me...
That's okay. You can be friends with Republicans. You've had to be friends with Republicans for years. Ronald Reagan was a Democrat.
Well, not only that, you got to understand that my speakership came in an unprecedented fashion. It takes 41 votes to become speaker. 80 people in the House make that decision. In the past, that decision had been made on behalf of a member of the individual party, a Republican or a Democrat. For the first time, the Republicans married with a Democrat and elected the Democrat.
Yeah.
The vote was 41 required out of 80. I got 51
Wow.
because I got 28 of 32 Republicans and I got 23 of 48 Democrats. I got more Republicans than I got Democrats, and it was because the nature and the quality of my leadership of the most important committee in the House displayed itself.
Yeah, and that was evident particularly when you were mayor. This was a vibrant, successful
Correct.
city. And right now with London Breed and some of the leadership that I've seen, this is, as I said, not the city that I remember visiting years ago. Hopefully that changes. Are you going to sue Donald Trump?
No. Are you kidding me? I would even hate to proceed in that direction. However, the collection of lawyers, and I am a lawyer,
Right.
They had a lot of fun with the idea that, wait a minute, if he's not telling the truth about these things, and you may find yourself harming Kamala Harris's candidacy.
But no.
Don't
No loss.
let that happen.
Right.
Don't let that happen. And so this discussion here at Sam's started with the idea that maybe we should see whether or not there's been any damage done to you that would entitle you to seek recompense from the person who did that damage to you.
Do you think-
That's how that started. And somebody overheard it
Yeah.
and proceeded to pass it on
And
to
ran it.
people in your business. And when I got asked the question, I'd have to be candid and say it has been discussed.
Do you think he has been sued enough?
Well, I don't want to speculate on whether or not he's sued enough, because I'm a lawyer. I think everybody ought to get sued.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to ask you about the black vote because of your experience. Right now, and this is just based on polling, a recent New York Times poll, black males in particular seem to be supporting former President Donald Trump in numbers that we've never really seen a Republican candidate receive before. Now, we will find out what happens, the tale of the tape on November the 5th. But what do you make of that and Donald Trump's, the sudden fondness for Donald Trump by many in the black community?
Well, I don't understand that at all, frankly, because you really ought to have a philosophical reason why you would embrace any candidate, whether the Republicans or Democrats in particular. You don't have any race commitment or anything like that nature. I was and am still very close to the Republican governor of the state of California, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
I was very close to Reagan, a Republican governor. It is clear that nobody has ever received as many black votes as Schwarzenegger received, percentage of the black vote. I don't think that came about because of anything other than clearly his relating in a direct way to the black community.
Do you think Trump has some of those qualities? And maybe
He may very well have those qualities. I don't see them because after all, I've been out of Trump's sphere of acquaintanceship now for 16, 17 years.
Just a final question. When was the last time you spoke with Kamala Harris?
Oh, probably 3 or 4 or 5 years.
It's been that long?
Yes.
So never while she's been vice president?
No.
Are you still, I guess that answers my question, but would you call your relationship with her close to this day? In other words, if you called...
I think there's still a friendship that we would have, although it might be a friendship that we'd subject to be renewed based on our individual connections. But she married a fine guy, apparently, a lawyer out of Los Angeles, out of the Beverly Hills world, out of the movie world, entertainment world in particular, and she was introduced to the blind date by a friend of hers who is a casting conductor in Los Angeles, and they seem to be doing extremely well.
Not a yes or no answer, please. Just because you've got such a labyrinth of experience in politics. November the 5th, what do you think happens?
I think I will be seriously regretted that I never stayed with her. She'll be the president.
Wow. Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for being with us.